Hello, everybody. My name is Jiri, and I'm engineer here at Visa. And I would like to welcome you to our webinar, How to Run Visa Direct Transaction in 1 hour using Python. What you will learn: how to create Visa Direct project, how to test connection using Hello World to our sandbox, and how to run Visa Direct transaction. After that, we're going to have Q&A. What we're going to cover today: just imagine, I would like to send you $100 to your Visa card, and money is coming from my bank. Well, how can I really do it? In this case, Visa provides something called Pull Funds API. As you can see it, we have pull and push. In this case, because it's coming from my bank, I cannot use the pull funds, and I only have to use my push API. Next. Here you can see the peer-to-peer or person-to-person transaction in full. What is the use case? I would like to send you $100 to your Visa card, but it's coming from my Visa card. In this case, I can use two APIs to make this happen. First, I have to do a pull. You can see it here. And after that, push. So today, we're just going to concentrate on the second part. And hopefully in the next webinar, we can close this transaction and show you the full person-to-person. Now, let's start. We have lots of in front of us. So first, what we have to do, I have to log into my Visa Developer Center, and I have to create new project. So let me start sharing. Here we go. So I'm assuming that everybody already has account on our Visa Developer Center. If not, you can very easily do it. Go to developer.visa.com, and it's free. Now, what we have to do here, as I mentioned, we have to create new project. So let's do that. And we can name it how we want, but let's say do Visa Direct 2 as a name, and we have to maybe add other descriptions if we feel like. Now, what's important, we have to actually add the APIs we want, and right now, what we're interested in is Visa Direct. So as you can see, Visa Direct is the last one. So you just click on Visa Direct, and we're almost ready. Now, this one is important step. It's about the certificate. In my case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate it. It's much easier. You can, of course, submit your own. And there's another nice, beautiful webinar from my colleague. And she's actually going to walk you, or actually this webinar already happened, to do it. Now what I have to do, click Create Project. Now this is very important step. And you have only one opportunity to get your private key. If for some reason you couldn't do it or something happened, you just have to delete the project or create a new one. Click Submit. Again, another warning that this is the only opportunity to do it, and there's a confirmation. So let's download the private key. I'm downloading it right now. Now I can click Confirm and Continue. Here you can see nice, beautiful summary. And you can see all the wonderful APIs we have. we're only going to work with one, but in the next webinar, we're going to extend it and show you additional APIs. Now, so we've got a private key. Is it all what we need? Not quite. So we need some additional things. We have to click on credentials. And from here, I have to download certificate. So let's do that. Additionally, I need my user ID. So I can copy it on clipboard and paste it into my notepad or any other editor you like. And again, I need as well my password. Same thing, copy to clipboard and paste. This is good. So pretty much we're almost ready to test the connection to Sandbox. If we want to do that, actually, let me, a little bit before we do it, there's some additional things you can actually do here. If you're interested, you can actually download a sample code and additional test data. But let's go back and get the hello world going. In this case, I have to click on API link, working with Visa APIs. In this section, you can see section authentication. And Visa Direct is using QA SSL. So click on QA SSL. Here is very detailed description, all these methods, what to do and how to do it. What I'm really interested in is to get the URL for Hello World. There's a link, creating Hello World REST project. I click on it, and from here, I can get my link. And it's sandboxapivisa.com, Hello World. It would be great if maybe we have a little snippet of the code to get going. And luckily, we have it. There's a sample code. You can see it here. So let's click on it. And we have multiple languages, Java, Python, Node.js, Ruby, C#, PHP. We're interested in Python. And what I'll do, copy and paste. And we have the wonderful button here to copy clipboard and put it in my notepad. So we can use it in a few minutes. Now, as you can see, what we're using request library. What I'm using the Anaconda distribution, and in this case, the request is already included. If for some reason you're not using Anaconda, using just pure Python, you might have to import it and install it yourself. If you want to install it, you have to use pip to do so. And again, Google is great to help you with. So let me stop sharing. Now we've got all the pieces together, and we can continue test the connection to our sandbox using Hello World. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to start sharing my ID. It's coming up. Excellent. So as an ID, what I'm using Wink, but you're welcome to use PyCharm or Spider. Either way, whatever you like, whatever is comfortable. So if you remember a few minutes ago, I grabbed a little snippet and paste and copy. So let's copy it from my notepad right here. This is a good start. Now we have to start filling the blanks. What we need? We need the URL. We don't need this line, so I'll comment it out. We definitely need the cert and the key. Let me type it. We definitely need the headers as well, but before do that, let's set key headers, and definitely we need user ID, password, and we have here body. Okay, let's put it here anyway. And one more thing, what we need definitely print response. Okay, and now we can start filling all the blanks. So what is the URL? I would suggest paste and copy because it's pretty long. What is the cert? If you remember, we already copied. We still need key. Excellent. What else we need? Well, headers we really don't need at this point. User ID, yes, we need user ID. We need password. These are really long, so it's good we paste and copy. Everything now regarding the body. Well, we really don't need the body, but let's just prepare it this way. It's fine. Now, this is all good. What sometimes would be even better if we can add a timeout as well. So let's add timeout, and our recommendation is to add timeout 10. And we should put it here, timeout. Now, when we have here data body, this typically is used when we're using XML. What we're going to use JSON. So in this case, typically it's a JSON equal payload. That's typically how we do it in Python. And data, we can actually comment it out because we don't need it. Technically, we don't need in the headers, but it's not going to hurt anything. So I think this should be pretty much everything what we need. So let's run it to see what's going to happen. Of course, we forgot to define the payload. It's no problem. We can do that as well. And definitely, I need to import one more library, library JSON. So let's do that. Let's run it one more time. Okay. Method not allowed. I forgot one thing. When we copy the snippet, if you look at it, what we have here is a post. That's unfortunately not correct, so we have to fix it and do a get. Let's run it one more time if everything is okay. And voila, it is working. So what we've got, we have a response in JSON, and you will see the timestamp and message hello world. So this is good news. Now we know we actually have the connection to our sandbox and everything is working. So in this case, what we can do, I can copy this work and we can prepare next real transaction. And as I mentioned, we have the concept of pull and push. In this webinar, we're going to concentrate on push transaction. So I can just put it here, and let's take a look all the parameters what we need to fill for the transaction. So let me disconnect from my IDE, and we're going to go back to Visa Developer Center. So I'll stop sharing my IDE, and let's start. Give me 1 minute, and we should again start sharing. You should see my screen from Visa Developer Center. Almost there. Excellent. So you can see this is where we end up last time. So I can go to my dashboard, correct? And in my dashboard, let's go to my projects. And what is beautiful, here we have one wonderful feature called API Explorer. So let's click on API Explorer. And here you can actually see all the different APIs. Now what we really want, we want push, and it's post. So let's click here. So what do we need? We already know it's going to be JSON, but in case you want, you can switch to XML. We know it's a post. We need definitely new URL. And now we actually have to submit headers. And what else we need? There's actually the body. Now, beauty about API Explorer is that you can actually test it here, right here. So let's try it. I can basically click here on send request and see what's going to happen. And excellent, we've got 200. We can actually see all the headers and the body. Here you can see very important is the transaction identifier. And of course, your action code, response code. Perfect. And the beauty here is you can actually change it. So if I want to send different amount, you can do it. Now remember, here we are running against simulators. So of course, it's only as smart as the simulator. In real life, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. But let's do one thing. Let's copy the payload, and let me stop sharing and go back to my IDE. More seconds, you should actually see it. Perfect, so this is where we left off last time. And we are running something called OCT, or in other words, it's push transaction. Now what we have to do, we copy and paste the payload. So let's here. What else we need? We need to change the URL. You can see it here. It's not hello world anymore. So let's do it. Let's do it now. It's a pretty long URL, so I would suggest paste and copy. And you can again see it's a push transaction, correct? And what else we need to change? Well, if you see it here in our code, we still have the old get. Well, right now it's actually going to be post. headers. That's one more thing we have to fix. And I think we should be in good shape to actually try it. In headers, what we're going to tell, it's actually JSON. That looks good. Everything looks perfect. So let's try it and see how it goes. Wow, everything works. Perfect. So you see JSON transaction identifier, we got response, all looks good. Now the question is this going to run tomorrow? Well, the answer is no. And the reason being is, look at here, what we did. We actually hard-coded the local transaction time step. And in this case, the server is going to complain about this, say, no, this is not correct. So we have to fix it. It's a little bit, it's not complete rocket science, but we have to add a few more lines of code, import one more library, wait time, and let's first make sure we actually do it correctly. So I'll create variable date, and we have to have certain format. So it's a little bit trickier, but don't worry about this. We're actually going to give you all the code, so you don't have to worry about it. Just use our code. So let's make sure this works. We didn't break anything. Perfect. But what we have to do right now, replace the line. So let's do that. Wait 1 second, almost done. Again, I don't want to type this very long. I could make typo, then we're going to hunt it here. All right, let's run it. Everything is working. That is very good news. So this pretty much is almost done now. If you look at it here, there's something called transaction identifier. As I mentioned before, this API is pretty much part of two APIs. First, you do the pull, and from here you actually capture the transaction identifier, and then you put it here and do the push. In this case, because it's coming from my bank, there's no pull. Therefore, we can actually remove this portion. And let's run it, make sure everything is still working. And yes, it is working. So this pretty much will conclude the first portion. We were able to run hello world, and we were able to run the push transaction. Now the question is, can we maybe do it maybe a little bit differently? Yes, there's always a better way. What we could have done, we could actually use Postman. And Postman has one very interesting quality. And the quality is that you can actually generate the code. So let's take a look. So let me stop sharing. My ID, and let's start sharing Postman. Give me 1 sec. It's coming up. It's almost here. Perfect. So Postman is here. Now the question is, we need to put somewhere the certificate, correct, and the private key. Now, the way to do it in a Postman is actually quite simple. You click on File, Settings, and in Settings, there's something called Certificate. So I click here. And here you can actually see this is the cert, and this is the private key. That's two things. Now, there's a little bit more. We still need the URL. So the URL we already know, we have it. So I'll just paste and copy it. Oh, actually, I can paste and copy it from my previous transaction. But this is still not enough. What we still have to add is a password and ID. The way you do it here, you see authorization. So if you click on authorization, you can add it here. And you see basic auth. You click on basic auth. And, well, because I'm already working with these APIs, so you can actually see it right here. Perfect, this looks good. So the question is, let's see what's gonna happen if I click the send button. Let's do it right now. Wow, everything works. So we've got timestamp and we've got the hello world message. Now, the reason why I like Postman is because it's pretty clever. You can very quickly test any APIs what you want. So let's make sure we actually do some tests as well. So we can click here on tests. And in a test, you can see status code is 200. If you click on it, it will actually provide a snippet for you. So pretty much it's done. Now I can run again the test and make sure everything works. And test result, pass. Status code is really 200. Now, is it really true? So how about we just change it to 201? I would expect it's going to fail, correct? Yes, of course it failed. So let's fix it. Perfect. Now, the reason why I really love Postman is, if you can look here, there's something called code. And if we click on the code, you can see you can actually generate all these different languages, Curl, Java, Node.js, etc. What we're interested today is in Python. So if, for example, somebody is interested in PHP, yeah, you can actually generate from here. And Python request, and look at it. It did actually generate for us the code. Question is this code really working? Well, let's find out. So again, paste and copy. Let me stop sharing, and let's go back to my IDE. Okay, ID is coming up. A few moments. Almost there. Now, what we're doing, it's again the hello world, correct? So let's let me paste and copy the code, what we got from Postman. There's some differences if you see it. The authorization is actually passed through headers. I did it slightly differently, but both is fine. There's one more good, interesting difference. You can see they actually use encode. That would be the right way to do it in case you get foreign character sets. So that's the preferable way. And let's check if everything, if we've got everything here. So let me a little bit switch the data around. And what you don't see here is the certificate. So this part, unfortunately, wasn't generated. So it's not perfect. So you probably got, what, 80% ready, but 80% is still better than 0. So let me paste and copy it here and see if everything is working. Let's check it out. Oh, everything is working. So we've got, of course, 2 times the hello world. So this pretty much will tell you that there's another way how you can proceed using Postman. So it's up to you, whatever you like. And we are almost out of time. So let me make sure I have enough time. So I think I have shown you everything what I wanted for this webinar. For the next webinar, I would love to close this and show you the full pull and push transaction. Additionally, we can show you how to trigger timeout and what to do if the timeout actually is going to happen. And as you have seen, we have lots of APIs, so stay tuned. And let me go stop sharing. And let me go back to slides. Now it's pretty much time for Q&A. And I would like to welcome my colleagues that they can maybe help with some of the Q&As. Please welcome them and proceed.
Hello everyone, this is Gautam Khanna. Thank you, Jiri, for handing over. So I'll start with the question first. The first question is from Mark Walker. And the question is Visa Direct like a virtual point of sale? So one of the case of Visa Direct use case is merchant push payment API, which can be used for merchant payments using the QR, where merchants can have a QR instead of the point of sale, and consumer can initiate the merchant push payment transaction to pay merchant for the goods. It is one of the use case for the POS where QR can be used. I hope I answered your question. If you want more details, you can always reach out to us via email or our community. Okay, I'll go for the second question, which is asked by Jirokji. And the question is, what does push funds method return in production? Is it a response coming directly from the issuer? So in production, Visa Direct send the transaction firstly to Visa, then Visa process the transaction and send it to the issuer. And issuer send back the response. So in production, yes, the response comes from the issuer side. But Jiri has run the transaction in sandbox environment. That is one of the test simulator environment. So right now, the response what you have seen, that was not from the issuer. But you will see the similar kind of response in production if you run the transaction. Thank you. I will welcome Vivek to take the further questions. Over to you, Vivek.
Thanks, Gautam. Thanks, Jiri. So I also received a couple of questions. So the first one is from Mohammed. Thank you for your question. So the question is, we were inquiring about the PHP code. So on the developer portal, there are multiple places where you can get access to sample code. So one is from the top navigation menu, clicking on APIs and working with Visa APIs. From there, if you navigate to the two-way SSL section, right at the bottom, you'll find different sample code you'll find sample code for different languages from Java, Python, Node, Ruby, C#, and PHP. And this is more for the authentication part. For the actual sample code with the payloads and more details about your APIs that you can, once you log in and you create your project on the developer portal, on your project details page in the left nav, you'll see a sample code section. So from there, you can also download the different sample code. The next, moving on to another question. So there was one question from Mikhail. Thanks, Mikhail. So the question is, should dev submit SSL to Visa developer? So yes, as Jiri walked you through in the demo, so since it's all the authentication mechanism that we use is two-way SSL. So developers have to submit a CSR, but for Sandbox, we have an option where we can generate a CSR on your behalf. So that is the flow which Jiri showed earlier, which is to download we generate a CSR on your behalf, and then you download the private key. So for Sandbox, there's no need to submit any CSR. Back to you, Jiri or Javier. Are there any more questions?
Okay, so I guess it's back to me. And looks like I have a question from Andre. Thank you very much for your question. And the question is, when it's not working, how to troubleshoot? First of all, I believe that we did a very good job with describing it, how to do it, so there shouldn't be any issues. If you have issues, you can send us email to developer@visa.com. That's one way to do it. Second way is post the message in our community, and of course we're going to help you as well. And I believe we have a troubleshooting guide as well. If you have any troubles, please don't hesitate. Send us email, post on our community forum, and we would be really more than happy to help you. Again, the email is developer@visa.com. Thank you. I think it's the only one I have in my queue. Gautam, do you have anything else?
Yes. I have another question from Gopinathan. The question is, can you please elaborate a bit more? How does end-to-end transaction works in production? So there are different use cases in Visa Direct. So I can elaborate one of that. And for more use cases specifically, you can reach out to the Visa developer team via community or the email. So I'll just tell you about person-to-person payment case because Jiri has taken that example. So in production, the sender will initiate the transaction and the sender bank will get the transaction first, and the sender bank will send it to Visa. Visa will process the transaction and send that transaction to the recipient bank. And once recipient bank will process the transaction, it will send the response back to the originator side, like firstly to Visa, and Visa will send it to the sender bank. That's how the sender will get the response whether the transaction has been successful or not. Similar kind of way, we have different use cases like merchant payment, cash in, cash out. You can actually reach out to us and we can explain you more on details. Thank you.
Okay,
Hi.
so
I will take one more.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So this question is from Ronak. The question is, does Visa Direct need a PCI environment for initiator application to run in the production environment as we take clear card during the push API? That's a very good question. Yes, the PCI requirement is there, and I think you can reach out to the Visa developer and our business folks can definitely reply back to you. What are the different requirements needed for initiating the transaction? Thank you.
So I guess that's another question for me. And this one is from Adrian. And the question is, what else would you like developers to know about Visa Direct? That is a great question. So what we're going to plan a series of webinars and teach you more about Visa Direct. However, we would like to hear from you what else you need, and definitely like to partner with you and help you in any way we can. Please again send us email. It's developer@visa.com. I would really appreciate it. And next, my colleagues.
Okay, Gautam this side. I will take the next question from Adrian. The question is, what else would you like developers to know about the Visa Direct? So there is ample amount of documentation given on the Visa Direct about what are the different use cases you can use this product for on the Visa Developer portal. And along with the documentation, you can also find out the request, response, payloads, and sample codes like what Jiri has shown some time back. So there's too much of material needed. But however, if you have some questions on this product or Visa Direct product, you can always reach out to us via community or the email.
Okay, another great question from Mikhail and he's interested to know about transaction reversal. You're actually ahead of us a little bit. So after we're going to teach you the pull and push, then we can go to a reversal. So let's, for example, let's have a simple use case. So again, I'll try to send you from my Visa card. So I do the pull, then I do push to you. However, there's a problem with push, and in this case, I have to return the money to originator, so I have to do reversal. We can definitely show you this, and it's our plan to show you how to do it, but stay tuned, it's going to be part of our next webinar. I hope I answered.
Okay, I'll take the next question. It's from Georgie again. The question is, can I send request directly to Visa, skipping our third-party processor? I think to answer this question is, firstly, we need to understand the complete flow. And if you can just send us an email or connect to the community and provide us more details, how you are expecting to send the transaction. So we'll be in a better position to answer for this one. Thank you.
Okay, this is Javier. There was a question asked by Manusam about are there any other apps which use Visa Direct? What he can do is, I just answered in the Q&A, I just say go to the API documentation, and instead of docs, if you go to the overview, you'll see many samples of partner companies who have used the Visa Direct platform. And Munyapa also asked a question about the transaction reference. I think he simply removed that retrieval reference number simply because those are numbers used to link transactions together, for example, an AFT with no CT. And for the purpose of demonstration, he just didn't use it.
Okay, so my turn again. And I've got email and question from Gustavo. We are a software dev company in Guatemala, and how can I enroll my company into this program? The easiest way, just go to developer@visa.com and just sign up. It's free. You don't have to do anything. and you can immediately start playing with our APIs using, for example, the API Explorer, which I have shown you. And after that, download the sample code in any language you would love to. We're supporting 6 languages, and start playing with the real stuff. Please, this would be great for us. We definitely would love to partner with you. Just go ahead. It's free. Next.
Hi, this is Vivek. I'll go. There's another question from Ariadna. So the question is, from Postman, when I test different APIs, like Visa transaction controls and Visa Direct, is it necessary to configure the certificates and keys for each one? But since it's the same domain, then I have to use a different set of keys for each of those. So as just to answer that, as you would have seen during the demo which Jiri showed, so in that, when he was creating the project, he only chose Visa Direct. But you can always select multiple products. So instead of selecting only Visa Direct, you can select both VPC and Visa Direct as part of the same project, and you can use the same credentials, the same user ID, password, and certificate to make calls to both VPC APIs and Visa Direct APIs. You'll only have to change the URL and the payloads when you're making the call. The domain and the certificate will remain the same.
Okay, this is Javier. There are 2 similar questions, one by Varghese and one by Muhamita. Both have to deal with outside associations such as MasterCard, Amex, or Discover. And correct me if I'm wrong by others, but I think Visa Direct is solely for use with Visa accounts to another Visa account.
Gautam, can you comment?
Yes. I have a question from Leila. And the question is it possible to have full transaction in one currency and push in another one? So I would say there are different use cases. It could be one of that. And what are those use cases? We have to go into a little bit detail. So you can actually reach out to us in the community, and actually we can give you the answer on that. But in terms of running the transaction, yes, you can actually, for the payload perspective, yes, you can do that. Thank you.
Let me continue with this. It's going to be part of our next webinar when actually we're going to show you how to do Forex. So answer is yes, it's possible. And we're going to teach you how to do it. I've got another question from Just Money. I'm not sure where the money goes after the transaction is completed. I'm guessing you're referring where the money goes after we finish the push transaction. In this case, well, the money will actually end up on your Visa, so you can actually start using it. That's the objective. I hope I understood correctly your question. Next.
Yeah. Gautam, this side. I have a next question from Adrian. And the question is, what has been the most interesting application of Visa Direct? Actually, there are many different use cases, interesting use cases, I can say. Like P2P, you can do funds disbursement, you can do merchant payments, cash in, cash out. Actually, I would advise you to go through the documentation on the Visa Developer Portal, and actually you can reach out to us, our email or community, and we can happy to help you to understand more in terms of business perspective also.
Yeah. Hi, Vivek here again. I have one question from Niko. So the question is, since the requests are in JSON, as long as you use the correct CAD set, you can theoretically do the request with any language. Yes, that is correct. So these are all our APIs are REST-based APIs. So the language really doesn't matter as long as you send the request in the correct format with the required headers and the certificate and key. Then you can do it in any language. We have on our developer portal, you will see most of the sample code in 5 or 6 languages, since these are some of the more popular languages. But that is correct. You can technically make a API call using any language you want.
And again, in case you feel that you would really love another language and you're struggling, please contact us. Send email to us, developer@visa.com, post a question on our forum, and we're going to help you, even if it is a different language. It's okay.
I got on this side. I have one more question from Ronak. For Visa Direct, and the question is, for Visa Direct API business implementation, should the acquirer and the sender country be same to push funds for cross-border? Ronak, very good question. Actually, the cross-border is possible. And I think maybe you have to let us know about the details of what are the different countries you're talking about. And once you reach out to us by community or email, we can provide you more details. But in terms of perspective of running the transaction, yes, cross-border is possible. Thank you.
I have another question from Thomas, and he's asking about availability of our sandbox APIs and performance. So regarding the availability, it's of course available 24/7, and we are monitoring. Regarding the performance, unfortunately, I do not know the data, but again, we're doing the very good job to make it scalable. However, it's a sandbox, so definitely please don't run a performance test against sandbox. That's about it. Next one.
Okay, this is Javier. I received a question from Paula regarding whether the transaction execution is instant. Yes, we answer millions of API calls, so that should be instantaneous. And Srinivas asked about what exactly is the sandbox. I'm writing an answer, but the sandbox is, you can think of it as a test environment for you to check if your application works with the Visa Direct APIs. But eventually, you'll have to migrate your application. And I don't know if they're going to talk in a later presentation about moving to a certification or production environment. For example, you'll have to get the actual production certificates instead of some test certificates they use for sandbox. Next.
Okay. Sure. I have another question. Question is from Leila. And she's interested about 3D Secure. And is it required? The answer is no, it's not required. But definitely 3D Secure has some interesting properties. So I would definitely suggest to, if possible, use 3D Secure. Next. And I think we're getting we have 2 minutes left. So I would like to wrap it up. In case we didn't answer some of the questions, we're going to answer them, of course, after the webinar. Don't worry. And definitely, I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear what you guys are struggling, what need you help, and as I mentioned before, I would love to create a series of webinars so we can teach you more about Visa Direct. And the beauty is, if you actually communicate with us and have a question, answers, we're going to send you some beautiful swag as well. You can actually see beautiful Visa Dev water bottle. And I believe I'm out of time. So I would like to thank you, all of you, for your time to see this webinar. And I'm really looking forward to next webinars. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.